Good. Okay. I'd like to call to order the Township Council regular meeting for Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like the record to show that council met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss litigation and a personnel issue. First item on the agenda is we have a Birdtown, Pennsylvania presentation. Mr. Crossan, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Today we have with us Heidi Shiver, who is the president of Birdtown, Pennsylvania. She's here to represent the Birdtown PA Outreach Committee and Birdtown, Pennsylvania LLC. You may recall that recently Concord Township met the requirements and applied to become part of the Birdtown program in Pennsylvania, and we have been accepted as the 40th bird town in Pennsylvania, and here is Heidi to present some information as we get this program kicked off. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Heidi Shiver. I'm from Birdtown, Pennsylvania. I'm the president, and delighted to be here, and congratulations on being number 40. Woohoo! So I just have a couple things to share with you about the program, just as a quick overview. I know you have a lot on your agenda tonight, so how do I go to the next slide? I just pushed, oh, there you go. Okay, thanks. So I think it's always important to share the mission. So Birdtown, Pennsylvania works in partnership with local municipalities like yourselves and like-minded organizations such as Audubon chapters, as well as We Can Serve PA, which runs the Environmental Advisory Council for the state. And we're newly connected with the Bird City Network, which is actually an international organization. We all work together to promote community-based conservation actions to create a healthier, more sustainable environment for birds, wildlife, and people. Next. Birdtown has been actively engaged in the state for 12 years. There's 43 programs now across 9 counties, and we're looking to spread across the state. Have meetings up in Pittsburgh and Erie, as well as Harrisburg. We're owned by the Pennsylvania Audubon Council, which represents all the different chapters in the state. And like I mentioned, we have a number of partnerships with these different organizations. Next. These are the different bird towns at this point right now. We're across 9 counties, as you can see across, and there's Concord highlighted under Delaware County. Next. So what we do is we engage, we educate, encourage, and support. We really want to engage at the grassroots level, at the community level, our citizens to do all these different types of things, anywhere from holding native plant pop-up gardens, sales and swaps, installing demonstration native plant gardens, supporting community science programs such as the Great Backyard Bird Count or the Christmas Bird Count, educating about invasive plants, and so on. So that these are all a number of things that one can do. We have hundreds of ideas for you. Next. So what we provide for you is a statewide structured program with congruous goals. We have concrete resources and achievable actions. We have a framework for community networking with other bird towns and conservation partners. And we have training and workshops for our bird town leaders. We have a workshop coming up in October about ordinances, and really inspiring and empowering our bird town leaders to know what those are and how to use them. And also it provides opportunities and success in obtaining funding. We just got $10,000 from Penn Community Bank for our organization, so really excited about that. And with that money, we're giving 10 $500 mini grants. So you guys are open to, jumping on that and hopefully, using that. Next. We have a beautiful website. It's really rich with the resources. It talks about backyard habitat recognition programs. This is a great place to send your residents for how they can be engaged and involved. We also have a special back page that I went over with Steve some time ago about the different things that he has access now to, such as contact list of other bird town leaders. We really encourage the bird town leaders to work together, to network together, inspire each other, and get ideas from one another. Next. And then we have different ways of networking, communicating with each other. So we have the Birdtown Flyer. This is a bi-monthly e-newsletter that's meant just for the Birdtown leaders to share what's going on. We have the Birdtown Forum. This is a private Facebook page that has over 170 members. This is a place where you can post events that are coming up, or inspiring information, or articles that you're seeing that let everyone know what you're doing and what they can be doing. And finally, we have the Bird Beat. This is a quarterly seasonal e-newsletter that's to inspire and engage residents. So it just gives you seasonal tips of what homeowners can be doing. Okay, next. So congratulations on being number 40. Woohoo! So everyone can give them a round of applause. Great accomplishment. Thank you so much. So I'd like to get a photo, if I could, of everyone. So if
Yeah,
you could
and
come up.
I'd like to especially thank our own big bird, our Public Works guy, Steve Jacobs, for putting all this together, and John Crossan was very instrumental in getting us this honor and this privilege. So, yeah, we'd love to have a photo.
And we have the kickoff meeting for our Birdtown Committee coming up in just a couple weeks at the end of July, and we're excited that part of that committee includes the owner of Wild Birds Unlimited here in town, as well as partners from the Newland Grist Mill. And we certainly welcome Birdtown to participate in our Community Day and other community forums so that folks can learn more about it. Thank you.
All right, so we-
Sounds good. This is an exciting one. Proclamation recognizing Dylan Bledsoe for his 2022-2023 wrestling achievements. Whereas the Township of Concord, Delaware County, Pennsylvania is proud to recognize the achievements of young people in our community. And whereas Dylan Bledsoe, who recently competed his junior year at Garnet Valley High School, is a valued member of the school's wrestling team. And whereas the endless hours of practice and dedication, in addition to his great character, courage, and commitment, have allowed Dylan to achieve great success. And whereas Dylan had an overall 2022-2023 wrestling record of 32-12, placed second in the Central League tournament, was All-Delco first team, recognized with the Dan Zier Iron Jaguar Award, placed third in the PIAA District 1 tournament, placed fifth in the PIAA Regional tournament, finished one match away from placing in the 2022-2023 state qualifier, and ended his season tied for fourth in the final District 1 rankings. And whereas these victories are quite an accomplishment, thanks to the support from his parents, community, teammates, and coaches, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Council of Concord Township does hereby acknowledge and applaud the outstanding accomplishments of Dylan Bledsoe.
That's in the form of a motion, Larry?
Yeah, I'd just like to say a quick word. It's, a lot of people don't know, but being neighbors and our properties can join with the Kallstorffs, now Bledsoes. It's really cool to have somebody, especially as a junior in high school, do so well under the guidance of our local coaches, along with his amazing foundation of parents and family, it's a testament that America can still work as we should. And can't wait to see what's in store on the football field and on the mat next year, along with this year. It's very exciting. So I'd like to make that a proclamation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Dylan, if you want to come up, we have a proclamation for you. I think you have another proclamation, but I don't think we need pictures this time. Go ahead, so we go for it, please?
Yes, sure, thank you. This proclamation is recognizing Parks and Recreation Month, July 2023, whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas Concord Township Council, Delaware County, understands the importance of parks and recreation in our community and has preserved over 320 acres of open space for our residents to enjoy. And whereas our parks, trails, open spaces, and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities and promotes active lifestyles. And whereas our parks and recreational opportunities are vitally important to establishing and maintaining a wonderful quality of life in our community, ensuring the health of all citizens and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of our municipality and the region. Now thereof be it proclaimed that Concord Township Council does hereby proclaim July 2023 as Parks and Recreation Month and recognizes the outstanding work led by our Township Park and Recreation Director, our staff, and Parks and Recreation Board members, and encourages our residents to visit our beautiful parks and to take advantage of our many recreational opportunities. I would like to propose.
Okay, that's in the form of a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Crossan, you have a presenting sponsor for our Team Toyota.
Thank you.
Allison, I forgot to mention, she is our Park and Rec Board Chairman and does a great job, and everything in this resolution is attributable to you and your team. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Following up with the Parks and Recreation opportunities, we have expanded the number of events that we do here in Concord Township in the last few years. Alice and her team over the last few years have helped to expand our events from a handful of events to hands and toes and maybe many hands and toes worth of events. And now under Steve's leadership, we have a new event sponsorship program whereby we are able to partner with businesses in the community to help underwrite the cost of these events. While we have many levels of sponsors, our top sponsor is the presenting sponsor at a $10,000 level. And I am proud to announce that Team Toyota in Concord, Team Toyota of Glen Mills is the presenting sponsor for this year's summer event schedule. And so we have a plaque here to present to Team Toyota, and I believe that Rose Spignesi is here on behalf of Team Toyota to accept that. And so I would just like to thank Team Toyota for their commitment to the community and all that, and for being such an integral part. Thank you.
July 13th, the Patriotic Pet Parade and Ice Cream Social, 6 p.m. at the park. Also that same evening at 7 p.m., the Big Fire Funk Band at the park also. July 14th, movie in the park, Lyle Lyle Crocodile. If I was Lyle, I would start feeling insecure because every time we scheduled a guy to come to town, it rains. July 17th, Planning Commission meeting. July 19th, Zoning Hearing Board meeting. July 25th, Council Agenda meeting. We're having an ARPA discussion on the funds we got from the ARPA money. July 27th, concert in the park, the Players Club of Swarthmore at 7 p.m. And July 29th, our first cornhole tournament at 12 to 4 p.m. at the park. The reports, finance report, Dana.
Thanks, Mr. President. So for our current report for quarter ending June 2023, our current real estate tax collections are totaling $1,525,070, which is 96%. We received $370,000 in realty transfer taxes in June from the sale of the Point at Glen Mills apartment complex. Our township engineers, along with the finance department, are currently working on submitting 2 DCED grant applications for state's watershed restoration and protection program. Communication and security upgrades for multiple township properties are ongoing. Security upgrades include cameras and remote entry systems and being installed at the township's community center, AME Church, and the township Smithbridge Park. As mentioned before, township management has prepared an ARPA-eligible project list for council for review and discussion. We're going to have an open workshop discussion to the public on July 25th. And our first payment of our annual contribution to Rachel Cole Library of $185,693, and Concordville Fire Company of $145,770. Thank you.
Okay, public safety.
We have the audit presentation.
Oh, the audit presentation?
Yep. So our 2022 audit has been complete, and I have our finance director here, Bill Kalin, who is just going to run through a couple slides just so we can close that out and talk about it. Thanks.
So like Amanda said, the 2022 audit was finalized. It was posted online on the township's website this afternoon for anybody who would like to review it. And I just want to go over just a quick kind of topographical highlights. So currently, at the end of 2022, the township's total debt is $9,888,000. That is broken up between 2 general obligation bonds, notes that are paid from township funds as well as sewer funds. Both of those were taken out in order for infrastructure improvements over the past couple of years, as well as part of the open space referendum that was a few years ago. Fund balances listed are at year end. The fund balance essentially shows it's not cash available, but that is kind of the totality of all the township's assets and liabilities. For the most part, they are very self-explanatory, as those funds are very specific. The one thing I want to highlight is regarding the sewer operating and capital. The way that the sewer fund works is that it's an enterprise or business fund. So on the financial statements, those two numbers are combined as all sewer activities are combined as one. Essentially, all sewer capital, the fund balance relates to all capital expenditures. But at the end of the day, the actual assets and the debt that is incurred and listed in the sewer fund is set in the sewer operating, which is why it looks, I guess, a little skewed if you were to look at it on the face, that the sewer operating fund has a higher fund balance than the sewer capital fund. But at the end of the day, like I said, everything is all one entity. And then down at the bottom is the notable interfund transfers. So every year, we budget to have the debt transfers out of the general fund to the sinking fund in order to pay the interest and principal payments on one of the notes that are listed above. And then in December's meeting, council approved the $300,000 and the $2 million transfer, which was part of the fund balance policy transfers that we make every year. And then this slide just shows a quick summary of the budget to actual for just the general fund, which is the township's main operating fund. Just a couple quick highlights. For other taxes those are transfer taxes mainly. The reason they were over budget was because of the Valley Brook apartment that sold last year. That was $482,000 in transfer taxes that the township received. At the end of the year, revenue was in excess of budget expectations by $448,000, or about 11%. And this was mainly because of those real estate transfers. Operating expenditures, are $28,000 over budget expectations, which obviously is very good. That's less than 1% difference. At the very bottom, when you include those debt transfers that I noted before, as well as the $300,000 that was transferred to fund future capital expenditures, expenditures in total were in excess of $296,000, of which $300,000 was that debt transfer. So essentially what it says is we were very good at maintaining our expenses as well as generating the revenues that we anticipated for the year in order to come in at a small profit of $123,000. Fun slide that we do every year. This just breaks down the kind of allocation for residential taxes. So on average, Concord Township resident pays $222 to the township in real estate taxes. And that is broken out, as you see below, $89 to the general fund, which is for operating purposes, $19, which goes to the fire company, and then $26 is for the fire hydrants that are throughout the town, $28 goes towards the library, and then $60 goes towards the open space, which that is for the debt for the previous referendum for the large open space purchases, as well as for the maintenance and purchase of future land and maintenance for that land. And then similar to the general fund slide, this slide is for the sewer fund. Again, the sewer fund, like I said, is all collapsed as one, which is why at the bottom the fund balance shows as $44 million, which is the total of those two numbers that are on that first slide. I just want to note on this one, this also includes a $2 million transfer from sewer operating to sewer capital that council approved in order to segregate and commit for future sewer expansion projects. For the most part, sewer revenues were all on pace. There was an increase slightly in commercial flow based on budget, and this was mainly because we were coming out of the pandemic as more commercial entities started to get back to 100% capacity in their services to the public. Their wastewater flow increased, as well as a couple new commercial clients that opened at the end of 2021. So we had no expectations budget-wise for their total flow. And then for expenses, we were slightly over our budget expectations, but that was mainly because the sewer plant began operating both sides of the sewer plant simultaneously. And then this just shows, as we've been talking about a lot, the availability of township funds. A lot of the fund balance that the township has is either committed or assigned. Committed means that council has made an action to commit those funds towards capital improvements, land acquisitions, and essentially only council can utilize those funds through a council-matic action. Assigned for use has less restrictions on it, where management has a discretion to use those funds for those specific items, capital improvements, again, infrastructure, capital equipment. And then special purpose there is no restriction on those funds, but how they are set up, they are established for a special use. For example, for fire services and library services, those funds are based on the millage rates. So we only use those funds in order to provide funding to the library and the fire company. And then for the open space and the land acquisitions, again, that is open space fees that have been collected from developers. And then the land acquisition relates to the reserve tax money that I've been speaking of. That was from the referendum that council has established. Those monies don't have restrictions in how the law says that they are committed. However, we specifically only use those monies for those uses that we've already kind of predetermined. And that's the end of my spiel.
Questions from any members of council?
Great
I
job.
I would just say nice job.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and it's great to see a clean audit that represents the township. So good job.
Okay, public safety, Benita.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everybody. Based on the fire marshal's report last month, we had 1 appliance fire and 4 brushwood fires. We also had 17 accidental auto alarm incidents, which were on a decline generally, and would like to see them go down further. Based on the Pennsylvania State Police report, the number of motor vehicle crashes have increased for the month of June, but there was a good decline in all of the other reported incidents. Our summer safety tip for this month is, once again, unattended campfires and burning of debris is the most common reason of how brush fires start. We did have quite a few brush fires last month. Please obey laws regarding open fires, including campfires. Keep all flammable objects away from fire. Have firefighting tools nearby and handy. Never leave a fire unattended. Also follow all safety practices related to using grills in the backyard. Also, considering the motor vehicle accidents for the month of June, please avoid distracted driving and follow the road rules and the speeds. Safety on the roads should be of prime importance for every driver of the vehicle. Thank you.
I just had a question for the fire chief, who I see is here. I've heard, say again? President of the fire company. Excuse me, I didn't mean to misname you. But with regard to electric vehicles and solar panels and things like that, I know that when the car wash, Mr. Wizard burnt down, those had solar panels on them. I believe that adds another level of sort of complication to putting out the fire. And as we've seen increase in electric vehicles on our roads, have you seen at all any increase in fires with vehicles, and what is sort of required of you as a fire company to be able to put those fires out? And do you feel like you are positioned to do that well, not only with electric vehicles, but we've also been approached about solar farms and increased solar panel usage on homes?
You're coming up to report.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
He's coming to report. He's next.
Yeah, I'm coming to report, so you have to put up with me for a while. In regard to electric vehicles, I don't believe that we've had any direct fires with electrical vehicles yet. We do have a concern because you can't put them out. You just kind of have to wait them out. There are some technologies out there which is an additive for water, which, believe it or not, puts a space between the molecules, which enables water to take temperature away quicker and actually will make water not conduct electricity. That's a technology that's out there, but we haven't had any problems there. We've had problems with lithium batteries for drones, video cameras, and things like that, but they're small and easily taken care of. We do have a concern, like over at Maris Grove in the garage, and the farthest point of the garage from the entrance, there's 2 electric vehicles parked right there. If one of those goes off, then there goes your garage, the vehicle next to it, and everything like that. But at this point, the technology is just to try to isolate it and keep dumping water on the vehicle and hope for the best. I mean, it's a new and emerging technology. We're trying to stay on top of it. You can use foam for it, firefighting foam, but that still increases some of the hazards. It starts to look like a fireworks show going off when you use water and/or foam. As for solar panels on roofs, the main thing is you can usually disconnect the power that may be there for the batteries. That's the big hazard, is the batteries there and the storage. The other part, as you mentioned, is the weight. We do have records of all the solar panels that are installed on roofs and stuff in the township. They are incorporated in the iPads in our fire trucks, so when it comes up on the screen that we get dispatched someplace, there'll be an icon there, and we click on that icon. That'll tell us that there's solar panels on the roof, so we know that there may be an electrical hazard and definitely a weight hazard if the structural integrity of the building is compromised.
What about with regard to any sort of solar fields? I know there's been some discussion with Delaware County regarding some of their land in Concord Township. Do you have any it's not a present thing, but I suppose maybe it's not a question, but just something for you to be thinking about if we were to entertain in any capacity any sort of a solar farm, how we might be concerned about that from a public safety perspective and managing fire safety and or put any restrictions or conditions in place for that.
A solar array of panels would probably be isolated from most other buildings, and it'll be similar to the substation that's over on Marshall Road that we would know what was there. And on like Marshall Road substation, we don't go anywhere near that unless we're accompanied by a PICO representative. We would do the same thing with a solar farm if there indeed was a hazard. Other than that, it's on its own, and we'll do what we can. But if it doesn't conflict with anything else or make a hazard to anything else, then it's kind of isolated. So it won't be a hazard such as a gasoline tank farm or a chemical farm or something like that.
I think to your point about the gasoline tank, though, you had mentioned that Maris Grove has 2 electric vehicle, charging stations in the garage, and that were those electrical vehicles to catch on fire, that would be difficult to contain it since it's in a garage. So maybe that is something, and as we think about, say, gas stations that have electrical vehicle charging stations next to gas tanks, maybe we should, if you could think about maybe recommendations for us in terms of proximity of and placement of EV charging stations with regard to either open or closed parking spaces and proximity to gas tanks.
No, I'll talk with Fred and Bob about that. I'm sure they're aware of it, and make that it's a hazard point more important than some of the others. Recently, there was an electric car that caught on fire in a garage out in New Garden Township, and they could have saved the building if it weren't for that car.
Wow.
But they couldn't stop
So
it.
do you have another report for us tonight?
I do.
Why don't we just roll right into that?
Done, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to go over some statistics and then just a little bit of what the fire company's been up to. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. In January through June of 2023, we've had 2,300 total EMS calls. That's emergency medical services. Of those, Concord was 1,470, which is 64%. We've had 540 fire rescue calls. Concord Township was 295 of those, and that's 54%. Following through in May and June, I won't read you the total figures, but 61% of our total EMS calls was for Concord Township. 50% was for fire and rescue was Concord. In June, 406 total EMS calls, which was 64%. Concord's was 260 of that. 118 fire and rescue calls in June. That Concord was 66, which is 56%. And at the way we're looking right now, and I'd have to get with Vanita because our figures aren't totaling out the same here, but projected right now, if we keep going at this rate, EMS will be 4,872 for this year, which will be 9% more than last year. And fire and rescue will be 10,080, which will be 8.5% more than last year. Just for some other news, training, we just did a basics rope and rigging class, 16 hours worth, which was 16 people completed that. Fire One, which is the basic class, which gets somebody into being a structural firefighter, and that's also nationally certified. And it's 180 hours worth of class. We had 2 people complete it, and 1 person partially got injured during the class. Once he gets back in speed, he'll finish it up. For emergency medical services, continuing education, we did a CPR technique review, which was using mannequins and things that are electronic in nature that show depth compressions, rates, consistency, and things like that. We got certified in the inline nebulizers and albuterol, which is a new BLS protocol. It's been in Chester County for a while. Delaware County is just starting to recognize it. And we also did advanced certification in pediatric neonatal delivery and CPR. And in continuing in-house training, the Aniline mapping system, which some of you may be familiar with through Bob and Fred, and pre-planned system, and arrival assignments. For public relations, we did the Concord Township Memorial Day Parade, Bethel Township Memorial Day Parade, Thornbury Township 4th of July Parade, Bethel Township Fireworks Standby, and then there's ongoing fire prevention and public awareness things. And just under miscellaneous, we have on order a PL Ford F-450 ambulance. We ordered in February of this year. Delivery was supposed to be 14 to 24 months. We happened to pick up on our reneged contract, and delivery is now January 2024. That ambulance in 2.5 years increased almost 50%. It is now $300,000. And then we picked up another contract with P&L for a Ford F-450 re-chassis for the ambulance, which is only going to be about $120,000. That'll be delivered early 2025, if Ford can provide the chassis, which is problematic. We have 3 ambulances in service right now, 100%. We purchased a pre-owned ambulance to keep our fleet at 3 while maintenance is being done on the first 2 ambulances. We ordered a 2023 Chevrolet 3500 crew cab pickup to replace a 2008 Ford crew cab pickup, which was starting to be problematic with maintenance and everything, and we will use relief monies to pay for that. We're finalizing our contract with a vendor for hooking up to the new Concord Road sewer system, and we are working with Concord, Thornbury, Birmingham, and Chadds Ford Townships on service billing ordinances. We are able to bill insurance companies for services and supplies used on major incidents. Some of the insurance companies do not want to pay unless there's an ordinance in a township saying they recognize that we can do that, and we're working with townships on that. And that'll be no cost to the homeowner or the person driving the car or anything like that. It's just through the insurance companies. And we're also working with the 4 townships for substantially increased fundings to offset our budget deficits. As with the rest of the world, we are hit with dramatic increases in material costs, labor costs, energy costs, etc. And unfortunately, we can't pass these costs on like a private business and bill the users, so we're coming to our townships to help us out with that.
Okay.
And that's everything.
I think when last year we were here, you mentioned that it seemed to be pointing in that direction, that you're going to need additional funding. I think in Bill's presentation regarding the real estate tax bill breakdown for Concord Township, a portion of our tax is dedicated just to the fire company. So I would just hope that you're in touch with Amanda and Bill so you get your numbers into us early in the budget process.
Numbers came in, we hit everybody up. I shouldn't say it that way, but in April we
You can say you hit everybody up there.
Yeah, we hit everybody.
We know what it's all
Now,
about.
we are not demanding the money,
No.
asking for it.
Okay,
Where
all right.
you read
Well,
the
no, you guys do a
papers.
great job, and
Thank you.
provide a great service to the township. Okay, next is the Park and Rec report, open space trails and recreation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just a few highlights from this past month. We've had our pie baking contest, and we had 20 entries. First prize was Andrew Novasitis with bourbon chocolate chip pecan. Second place was Lynn Wazalowski with her cherry pie, and third place was Kiki Cole with her very blueberry. Best overall appearance went to Laurie Harrison with her queen bee pie, and $200 was raised for the Rachel Cole Library. We had the Race for the Watershed, an inaugural event in partnership with the Newland Grist Mill, which included a 5K, which had 120 runners, as well as a rubber ducky race where 360 ducks were sold. And most importantly, the fundraising goal of $10,000 was met to be raised for Newland Grist Mill. We had a bus trip in partnership with the Concord Seniors to Atlantic City and to see the Motown show and do a casino visit, and that bus trip sold out, so happy to see that partnership. And as you mentioned earlier, this week is a fun week with the pet parade and concert on Thursday night and the movie on Friday. And coming up at the end of the month is our first ever cornhole tournament on Saturday, July 29th at the Township Park from 12 to 4. So encourage folks to come out for that.
Okay, Sewer and Public Works, Mr. Gillespie.
Yes, Mr. President. Back to our fire chief. Cut me off pretty quick there. Due to our growing senior population, you indicated we have 3 ambulances at the present time. How close are we to getting a 4th?
The reason we ordered the latest ambulances, we're moving to 4. So that means we'll have 4 of the F-450 Fords. We'll have the spare ambulance that we'll keep around. And then another year, we'll have a 5th. So we'll have 5 or 6 ambulances. We hope to staff 4. The MICU ambulance, Mobile Intensive Care Ambulance, puts on 117 miles a day. So we're extremely busy. So we will have 4. We just can't find staffing, as can anybody else.
Yeah, you and everybody else. Yeah, staffing is a problem. Thank you. Regarding the sewer operations report from Jim Saunders, a couple of highlights under capital projects. The Concord Road North project is underway. Contractor has a main sewage line installed and is working on house connections as the material is made available. And as an aside to the Concord Road sewer project, our sewer engineer met with PennDOT because PennDOT has Concord Road on their list of streets to be paved this year. The fact that we may get into the fall before our project is finished, PennDOT has decided to continue that road until spring of next year. And with plant performance, both sewage plants are working within permit requirements. Experienced several rain events, including a 4-inch rain event, but no overflows or bypass conditions. All systems are operating normally. Regarding the Public Works Department, that report from Dan Moyer, 3 things I'd like to highlight. The road program. Prior to construction, all storm structures were fully inspected for damage, and repairs are on schedule to be completed prior to paving. And at the Senior Center, staff expanded the parking area of the Township Senior Center. The work added 4 additional parking spots. And finally, the municipal parking lot lines were painted for parking and driver safety. Much appreciated by pickleball community and visitors to our township building. That's the end of my report.
Okay, Colleen, Building and Code Enforcement.
Thank you. In building and codes, we had 162 permits processed in the month of June, 22 certificates of occupancy issued. The Pulte submitted their first 4 models, and that's the neighborhood along Route 202 going northbound. And we had 97 roof permits issued for Concord Crossing. That must be a large part of that neighborhood. Some new businesses, 5 Guys received their final CO in the Brandywine or the Concordville Town Center, and Hertridge Collision Center of Chad's Ford on Wilmington Westchester Pike Couple of future businesses planning on locating in the township: Joyful Restoration Coaching, Counseling, and Integrative Energy Medicine on Concord Road, Tai Chi Bubble Tea at the Town Center, TLE, the Learning Experience, plans on getting an approval on Dougherty Boulevard, and Good Feet submitted for preliminary review in Glen Eagle Shopping Center, and Morningside Cafe is looking for a permit at the former Concordville Pharmacy on Route 1. That is my update.
Larry, Planning Commission?
Thank you. Concord Township Planning Commission activities for June 2023. Mark Elser, Chairman, Ben Littell, Vice Chair. The Planning Commission agenda meeting was held on June 12th, 2023, and the public meeting was canceled for June 19th, 2023. When it comes to new projects, the Garnet Valley High School Campus Sketch Plan, or plans, 130000 12105, 13000011900, and 13000078401 were assigned to Sarita Trividi and Ben Littell. We'll touch base on that a little later on in our agenda, as I believe a couple of them are here also. When it comes to other projects, Route 202 Project LLC, Carmen Auto Group, LT 13000106500. Amended plans, we had a conditional use for Del Pez Concordville LLC, Mexican Gastropub, the site of the old Bertucci, for outdoor dining. Planning Commission will issue review comments, as they already did. The schedule for the month, the next public meeting, one was yesterday, was their planning meeting, and the public meeting will be on July 17th. And that's it for Planning Commission.
Solicitor, Mr. Dunningham.
First subject is Milan Lodging. That's the application presently in front of the Zoning Hearing Board for a decision. I believe it's on July 19th, and the township has filed its memorandum in opposition to that application. Next, Concord Ventures. There had been a status conference scheduled for the first week in July, and that has been continued, and I'll keep you advised as to when it's rescheduled. Thank you.
Township Engineer, Mr. Klein.
Sure. First, a few updates from last month's meeting. Public Works did install the no-through traffic and private lane signs at Macomb Avenue and 202 per the request of the adjacent resident, so that's been completed. Second, I did go out and visit Mill Race Place. We had received some complaints regarding stormwater. I went with the Township Code Officer, met with the adjacent property owner. It's going to be tricky. It's a little bit of a gray issue, but I will be meeting with the Public Works Director when I return from vacation, and we'll see if we can find some solutions to those issues. But it will be taking some time to resolve. The other issue was a comment about 711 Concord Road and curb stops. Two things. One, the code that's referenced by Mr. Goebel at the previous meeting is correct. The code, the way it reads, is curb stops or parking bumpers are required for parking lots. However, ever since I've been involved in the township and prior to my involvement, we've interpreted that with a little bit different light. You don't see them in many parking lots. Why? Tripping hazards and extremely difficult to plow. So they're really not industry standard, somewhat of an outdated code section, and the way we've applied it is try to use some common sense where it blocks pedestrian access, vegetation, things of that nature, screening. I did visit the 711 Concord Road site. They have installed some curb bumpers on the parking lot. I am completely satisfied with where they have been installed, have no issues, and I've asked Amanda to kind of put this on our list as a possible future code edit, just to clean up that language to make it a little bit tighter. Going forward, a few new items. The road program was approved by PennDOT yesterday, so we are working with the contractor to get that scheduled. Probably late July, early August at this point, but we'll see how that goes. 202 Namens Creek Road, we had some trouble with that signal going into the July 4th weekend. Obviously, that is under construction. While it's under construction, it's out of our hands, unfortunately. We've got to rely on PennDOT's contractors. It took us some time to resolve, but we believe that's operating better now. Regarding the construction, a lot of the base construction is done. At this point, we're waiting on the new signal poles. They will not be here till the middle of August, so this project final completion is probably going to stretch out until October. We were notified by PennDOT they will be applying a 2 to 3 day detour of Smithbridge Road east of Concord Road. We do not have a date yet, but that is for a 30-inch storm sewer pipe replacement. Once we have more information, we'll put that out to the public. And I believe last 2 comments would be Britton Lake Corporate Center. We met with property representatives from that group just to discuss some ongoing maintenance needs for the paving, striping, and signage for that complex. So we're hopeful this fall they'll start making some improvements to some of those issues on that site, and then hopefully complete some more in 2024. And then the last one is tomorrow, Public Works will be installing the updated no truck signage at the intersection of 322 and Matson. Per previous requests, we were able to get that approved by PennDOT. Some signs were missing in action from the 322 construction, and those will be up tomorrow.
Okay. Amanda, Township Manager.
Sure, I'm going to keep it quick and light, but I just want to thank council under your leadership and allowance of me to exercise managing our municipality and our staff, because our team is awesome. And I just want to point that out, and I want to say it because I have a lot of my staff members here right now. I have Park and Rec, you just heard, we're celebrating Park and Rec Month. We have lots of opportunities for residents to recreate, and we have new opportunities and pie baking contests and all these wonderful things, and we're now at Birdtown in Pennsylvania. I think these things are really exciting and great for our community. I also have our finance director here who just gave, our audit report and works tirelessly to make sure that everything is good and we're doing all the right things that we should by law with our finances. I also have Lisa here, who's at every single meeting with me and handles our communications, whose husband came in here earlier tonight with a cord for us because our live stream went down. So I want to thank all of our staff members, and you heard codes processed over 160 permits in 1 month. We have a small team. We are mighty. I'm super proud to be here. I'm super proud to work for you all, and I thank you again for your leadership and allowing us to do the great things that we've been able to do over these last several years. That's what I got.
Wow, performance review isn't until October. No. Identify yourself. We'll need your name and address, please.
Michael Gogler, 684 Concord Road. Nate made some comments earlier. So it was curbing at 711 Concord. I've been coming to meetings, and I've been watching the meetings online since we bought property in the township a couple of years ago. This is almost every meeting. And it's one person who just seems to think it's fun or to harass one of my neighbors. I'm getting tired of it. I don't think it's a good look for council to play the game. It is a game. When we moved in here, the only person that stopped at the house while we were working on it, Dave Thompson. Over, introduced himself. He said, "Nice project you got here." He says, "Need a hand?" "Yeah, I need a hand." "Kidding?" He said, "Well, you need machinery, you need a crew, you just need me. Here's my number, I'm just down there. Give me a call, I'll come up." And on several occasions, because it was COVID and you couldn't find anybody to do anything, I tapped him, said, "Hey, I could really use a set of hands here." And I look at this on a monthly basis and go, how long does this go on? And I got to wonder, have you tried bringing these two parties together so that we don't have to sit through this every meeting? And council time, money, effort wasted on this.
I know that there's been various litigation regarding this. I'll probably defer to our solicitor about getting the two parties together to get things resolved, but I think at this point we've probably addressed as many things as possible. Unfortunately, there are times when there are questions or concerns raised that just cannot be answered. and there are interpretations of the ordinance that we have that might not agree with someone who doesn't think we're interpreting it in their opinion or to their favor. I thank you for your noticing this dynamic. We will try our best to try to treat both parties with the dignity and respect they deserve. And I sometimes wish it would come back this way a little bit. I don't see that often, but I appreciate your comments. I don't know if I have anything else to add to that.
I've watched Dave fix up his property the same as we've done with ours.
Yep. No debate there. From what that
The
thing looked like years ago to
restaurant
now.
is an asset. I can't tell you how many times I was filthy and disgusting coming out of my place at 6 or 7 o'clock at night looking for food and walked in there and looked like you know what. For a problem, you know, food's great, trying to get you over the hump and through to the next day. It is that restaurant's a neighborhood asset. It's great.
I'm not going to debate you on any of those things. We are in a tough spot here.
I
but
get that. Like I
get
said,
it.
it's just month after month. It's the
the way-
same thing.
It's the life we chose up here, so what we're going to do. Okay?
Oh, and on your solar field,
Yeah.
you're gonna go that route, call Pico and ask them if you can do a microgrid and cut all our bills.
Okay.
Need help with that? Give me a call.
We will. Thank you for your help. Yes, sir.
And Hemp Hill, 39 Mill Race Place. Thanks, Nate, for that update. Appreciate it. Those slides that were shown earlier about the state of township finances, can they be made available?
Yep, we usually post them on our finance page under presentations, so yes.
Okay, thanks. So congratulations on the Birdtown thing. That's really cool. You should also know that plastic waste is one of the biggest killers of birds in the wild. And if you've read in the paper a couple days ago, Lower Merion just banned single-use plastic, joining probably 24 other townships in the area. It'd be a great opportunity for you guys to show concern for birds by banning single-use plastic. We have a lot of supermarkets, a lot of convenience stores. It would be a real step towards doing something for wildlife. I was curious about the restaurant. Does anyone know how long that's been a business?
The
Does
Dove
it-
has.
The restaurant itself or the location?
Both.
Okinawa?
Well, the location.
The
dates back-
location since the late 1700s, early 1800s.
How long has it been a business?
It was a business at that time. It was a lumber mill, it was a dairy, there was a number of different entities that operated from that facility throughout the last 100 years or so.
So the houses that were built post-date that business?
That I don't know.
I would think they would. The newer construction that happened in this, probably through the late 80s through now.
So
Yes.
people buying in that neighborhood knew that there was a business there?
I'm going to get in trouble.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Do the math, okay?
Mr. Hempel,
Ken,
regarding your comments about the plastic,
Salim Sheikh.
Salim, 1 second, go ahead.
regarding your comments about the plastics and the recycling, that is in our toolbox, but it hasn't been resurrected lately, and I appreciate your comments. We'll certainly look into it.
Now,
Salim Sheikh, 7 Broom Court, Garnet Valley. I'm here representing the Concord Township trustees for the Rachel Cole Library. Wanted to say thank you for all the support that you guys gave. We are doing some pretty good summer programming, and most of you probably know that we got the Keystone Grant to create a separate section for Children's Library. We are excited about that.
Good.
So just wanted to come say thanks to you for all the support that you provide. And the second thing, I'm also come here as a active member of our township tennis community. I know you guys are doing a lot for pickleball courts. Just wanted to let you know that in the summer, all the 8 courts are full right now. Any day you go in the evening, all the 8 courts at our high school are full, right? I'm not necessarily here for ask anything, but just want to let you know that there is an active tennis community which might come to your door in the future or near future. Thank you.
We have a plan from the school district. I think they're going to add 10, no, they're not.
Salim, those courts, though, when you say they're full because there's just a general demand for them, or they're reserved and you're...
I think 2 courts are reserved.
Okay.
And for probably once a week for 6 weeks. We also have the high school coach who runs tennis clinic. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 courts are reserved and 4 courts are for public. But I don't think we have space to let people reserve more than 4 courts.
Right.
If we reserve 6 courts or 8 courts, that means then the community will not have no space to play tennis.
But what I'm hearing you say is that you believe the demand is exceeding the supply for the tennis community.
In the
general.
summer, definitely.
Okay.
Right. So, and then in the fall and the spring, we share that court with the high school tennis team, which rightfully they get the priority, right? But I think we are up to the brim right now, but if there is more, we'll see what will happen.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Our Park and Rec Director is here, and he's listening to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir.
Hey, good evening, Council. I'm Mark Sanders from 10 Nicklin Lane. Here to talk about, just very, very briefly, the storm drainage in the Concord Woods neighborhood. I have a few Concord Woods resident with me. And just to summarize briefly, we have some township storm sewer facilities in the neighborhood, in particular some corrugated metal pipe that is about 26 years old and is collapsing and basically is at the end of its useful life. So we've uploaded some pictures and videos of, obviously we've had some intense storm events over the past month or so, and just wanted to share those with the township. I think we sent those to the township manager and the engineer here if anybody's interested in seeing them. One resident who's not here, I will say 45 Huntington Farm Drive, which is kind of the low point of our neighborhood to get through, to get all the stormwater uphill of Huntington Farm Drive, underneath Huntington Farm Drive, and to our little stormwater management pond. That homeowner asked me to mention that their front yard does become a lake. Obviously, these are intense storm events. The one thing that I've mentioned to the residents in the neighborhood is that, we want to definitely take a look and make sure none of these pipes are blocked at all. We get a lot of tree branches, debris coming through the pipes, and hopefully that they're carrying flow through, because we are starting to see some big backups, whether that's just the intensity of the storm or whether something might be plugged up somewhere in the system. I can't say for sure. And I'll also say we're uphill of Mill Race Place, so we want to be good neighbors to those guys. If anything comes up downstream of our pond, as it did in the past one time, I'm on the HOA, so please bring it to our attention, and we'll address our facilities. And lastly, I want to say appreciate Nate's involvement in the past, and also Dan Moyer came around a few weeks ago to check out some of these issues, so we appreciate that. And as I said, I have a few residents with me if they want to mention a couple specific issues.
Hi. I just want to say thank you all for making this. Oh, I'm Kira Fasanella from 8 Nicklin Lane. Just listening to everything, I moved here about 7 years ago, and I just have to say, my husband and I started our family here. We just love the township, and we love everything about it. So thank you for all your hard work. Our only sadness is that our land is actually washing away in our backyard. We have 2 different pipes running through our backyard, 2 different swales. And then we have a 3rd runoff that shouldn't be running through our backyard that is actually raging through our backyard every single time we get heavy rain, to the point where we've had such severe loss of our land and erosion. I know myself and my direct neighbors have put tens of thousands of dollars of our own money in, with rock and underground pipe of our own, and it's not working. And I think at this point, it's just out of our realm of expertise and what we can handle. So we are asking the township to please step in and help us. It's really scary every time it rains. And we're just hoping that we can get this resolved as quickly as we can so my kids can enjoy their backyard and we can hopefully build a deck that would be nice to use out there. So at the very least, I don't know if there's been any maintenance done. I don't know if there's any documentation of the last time the culverts have been cleaned or maintained. I know, Amanda, we had talked back in 2020 when we first started having issues. And at that point, we were unclear as to whose responsibility it was. So I don't know if there's any record of the last time that's happened.
We could check with our Public Works Director to get them out there, because you are right, if they're not clean, that's just
Yeah,
not the cause of the problem, but it's not helping
Right.
alleviate the
Yeah.
problem.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been out and they've looked at it, and I'm going to let the engineer jump in.
No, I know we've talked and we've all talked, and I saw Mark's sent over a really good email, a lot of pictures, a lot of photos, so we'll dig in on that. As you recall, we were out there probably now going back almost a couple years. We did determine that in the case of this neighborhood, a lot of the stormwater infrastructure is the township responsibilities. If you recall, there was a lot of confusion about that issue because it's just, for whatever reason, when this neighborhood was developed in the 90s, a little bit of an odd duck. To that end, we've been budgeting, planning some stormwater improvements. I believe at our we have a July 25th, we have an ARPA discussion that evening. This is penciled in on that list, so I'd encourage you guys, if you're able to kind of advocate for your projects there. And I think if we can pull some money from that list towards these improvements, I've already got in my head kind of what we need to do out there. And I think if we can, once council approves that list, we can hit the ground running pretty quickly. Separately, I think what I'll do, just based on the feedback and some of these pictures, is talk to Public Works, and at a minimum, there's 2 or 3 pipes over there. I just want to get inside and just take a look at, make sure there's nothing obvious, blocking, clogging, things of that nature. Where you're at, you've probably got the most challenging situation. Again, we've all been back there. There's not really a short-term answer. That's a larger, expensive project. But again, getting that on the list is going to be half the battle here.
Okay, thank you.
For the residents of Concord Woods, not only do I sit up here at the table, but I am a resident of Concord Woods for 25 years. So I understand what you're going through. I've had several meetings with our engineer and our Public Works people. And as was indicated on July 25th, the entire board here will have discussions on how we're going to spend the ARPA money. And I know where my priorities lie. Just a few interesting things. In Concord Township, we experienced some pretty heavy rains. When you look at the Philadelphia airport, the official records, they don't really reflect what's happening in Concord and Radnor and other areas. Just over the past weekend, Radnor had 7 inches of rain. I mean, roads were compromised, bridges, and the total rainfall in Concord for June was 10 inches, okay? We had 2 events. One was 2.2 inches on a particular day, and one was 4 inches on a particular day. When you look at the month-to-date in Philadelphia, the official rainfall record, they had 1.85 inches for the whole month. You can see the difference in record-keeping from Philadelphia to Concord to Radnor. And throughout the eastern United States, if you look at the news, I mean, there's been some horrific storms over the last several weeks. But we're fortunate in Concord. We haven't lost any houses. We've had some water back up in yards and things of that nature. But we're doing what we can, and we're certainly going to put some of those dollars to work using the ARPA fund. So stay tuned. We have your interest at heart.
I live at 2 Nickland Lane. I'm actually right up the street from Kira and Mark. I've been in the development since '97. So when I first moved in, I did have, there's like 3 storm drains where I'm at, and they all merged into my property. And when I first moved in, they must have been like maybe a 1 or 2 foot space where the water would run through. Now I've got ravines back there. I mean, you can walk back there, the ground just drops right off 15 feet. And you can't even use that land. I've lost 2 trees from the erosion. So I would like to have someone, yes. Yeah, and that starts where I'm at and runs downhill to Kira and everybody else. So it's
Correct, and I think at some point, sorry to interrupt you too, but I think your property's on my radar because looking at the old plans and what's out there now is not really matching up. So part of this process might be taking some of that and restoring it back to its kind of original condition. So sorry to cut you off there.
no problem. As I said, there is 3 storm drains and they all feed into this one area, and it was not designed to handle that much water flow. So it's just taking the soil right out. So anything you guys can do that can address this, I understand there's a meeting on July 25th, and I realize you've been living there for a while too. So these are things you really don't see unless you're down on the property looking. This last storm, I had a pond in my backyard. I could probably go fishing if I wanted. It was deep enough.
Good.
Need to get that like half the way.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Dave. No.
Feeling welcome. It's Concord. Everybody's welcome, right? Yep. Dave Cleary, 72 Schoolhouse Lane. On the agenda, for some reason, you continuously have been putting the Schoolhouse Lane update later in the agenda. I am recommending include it with all the other public works or township engineer things. It doesn't need to be by itself. I realize it's been over almost 3 years since I suggested a deceleration lane coming off of Route 1. And I listened or I watched the video last month, and I got to admit it was insulting. My wife and I have had to follow up multiple times asking what's going on. And what I heard in the video was that the township engineer had to go ask our neighborhood for ideas about it or survey.
No.
I'll go back and rewatch it. Ian, well, why don't you give the update so I have a chance?
I'll give the update when it's on
And that's what I'm saying is give the update so it's available to speak.
Wait a minute. We're going to give the update when it's called for in the agenda. However, the reason it's on there is because the council said we wanted an update on this every month. Nate, not to steal your thunder when you get there, but we're ready to go to PennDOT for permits. And yes, a deceleration lane is included in the design of the road. So I apologize if...
It seems like it's been dragging out over the 3 years.
It has, because it takes that long to get something through PennDOT with approvals and things. But we are on the cusp of getting that started.
And I'll go back and look, and if I saw it wrong, it's good you have the video recordings of it.
That's fine.
The other thing we saw with the tax reassessment by the county, one of the properties in my neighborhood, 228 Andrian, failed to appear for reassessment. It was discovered they hadn't been paying taxes for about 50 years at that point, since they were built in 1968. Concord Township has not taken action. It's zoned, the area zoned single family residential. This property, for some odd reason, has never been on the tax records, and the township has never made the correction and made it identify as a unique property in this single family dwelling zoned area.
What was the address again?
228 Andrew. It's the Capelli's house, where the Capellis grew up.
Okay.
Probably close to $200,000 in lost tax revenue between the township, the school district, and the county, and it still is not portrayed as a taxable property by the county. And if it's single-family residence...
Is this the same property that is also on the same tax bill that covers the garage and the shop?
There's no way to tell.
Okay, we'll have the tax collector.
What I would recommend, instead of trying to keep doing that, because at best it was a 50-year tax loophole, and if they've shifted a partial burden on the unzoned business next door, I don't think that's the right approach. Make them pay taxes like every other house in the neighborhood.
I think where I'm going with it, if there's one folio number that encompasses both parcels, then they are paying taxes. Both buildings, if it's on one folio number.
And what I'm saying is,
You're
it's
thinking it
zoned,
would be two folio numbers.
there's actually 3 lots.
Well, it doesn't matter if they've never been subdivided, it will still only have one folio.
And that's your job, is what I'm saying.
No, we can't force someone to subdivide. It's an existing nonconformity.
No, you have no record of that. We've already been around that. That
I know,
house
David,
is,
we're giving you the same answer we gave you last time.
it's a historical preservation. And what I'm saying, sir, and it's just a coincidence that the Capelli's house and the Capelli's property.
Capelli's no longer own that house.
Yeah, but they sold it with a promise that they wouldn't have to be taxed appropriately.
Do you know that for a fact?
It's a perception.
Do you know that for a fact?
It's a perception, sir.
Okay, you know that as a perception. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't see you doing anything about it.
I don't think
I
there's
know
anything
that
you
for
can
a
do, but
fact.
we will check with the engineer and the tax collector to identify the folio number and what the description of the buildings are on that folio number. And if it mentions more than one building, then that's it.
And I don't agree. I say it's
Well,
single.
then you don't agree, but that's the way it's going to be.
And that is not solely your decision. We have zoning laws and codes.
Okay. Anything else, Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to say if that area is zoned single-family dwellings, you can't arbitrarily.
We're going to research it. We're not going to be able to answer that question tonight.
It provides, when you make that statement, it provides the perception of favoritism because you're handling that property different than the rest of the property.
We're handling the property, we're going to do the research. If it's one folio number, it's one folio number.
Did they pay taxes for the 50
I don't
years?
know. I know I pay my taxes.
And I'd like everybody else to pay, and I think that's your job and your responsibility to make sure everybody else is fairly paying their taxes.
Mr. Clearly, I think you brought this up a few years ago, and I recall us looking into it. 228 doesn't actually exist. So our emergency services, because that is one parcel, actually assign addresses sometimes to make it easier for ambulances and things to get to the house property. I believe that in that research, and we will check again, but I believe in that research that Dominic is correct. That is one parcel, and they are okay on that. The reason
Well, the reason it's one parcel is because the township is telling them it's one parcel. And what I'm saying is you have the obligation to
It was never
tell them it's-
subdivided by the owner. So again, we're happy to look back into it, but I believe we gave you an answer to that a few years ago, and I can find the email and come back with that.
And I'm saying that's your job to make sure all the houses and properties are zoned the same, so somebody isn't getting the tax advantage that property's been getting and continues to get. And so I disagree with you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, Amanda, we do have a public comment that was emailed, and don't shoot the messenger when she reads it, please.
Yes. We received an emailed public comment from Mr. Gene Goebel, 7 Quaker Lane, and he had 2 inquiries. One, 711 Concord Road is still missing the code-required parking spots common to the residential zoning on the old James Pool building slab. For several months, the township has had action to follow up, and he's not received the appropriate response to his request. The second comment that he has, he knows often council responds to public comment questions by stating they will look into something and then get back to the citizen. Oftentimes, council follows through, and oftentimes, council drops the issue. Would council consider enhancing the meeting agenda to add a responses owed category to capture, track, and handle those so it doesn't get so a response gets to the public? That's all the questions.
Amanda, to that point, if you could, I think a lot of times, if there's some research to be done and things to be followed up with, could you include that in perhaps your reports if there are any items to be addressed? I know last time he brought up, Mr. Goebel brought up the idea of various tax parcels that perhaps have been rezoned that need to be identified to the county. I'm not sure where we were with that particular issue. Do you have any update on that?
So that individual one, I believe that an email was sent with the information from the tax assessor's office, noting that the comment was not valid of what Mr. Goebel had to say, and a response was issued. So most of the time when we have questions that come up that are answerable and that we can provide information on, we sometimes do that directly to the citizen. You'll say, manager, please respond. And sometimes they come up in reports. For example, Nate just brought up some engineering items that came up from a previous public comment. I am absolutely happy, though, to bring up any questions that council has directed us and we can respond to reasonably in the public, and we've done that mostly in our reports when we do that.
So with regard to that, when we just recently did the rezoning from some lots from residential to C2, do we notify the county of that?
The new assessment will not kick in until the property is developed under the new zoning ordinance.
I see.
So right now, it's going to be residential until somebody builds on it and gets a CO for a non-residential use.
Bill,
Then
if
it will
you're,
happen then.
Bill can actually talk to you. He spoke with the assessor, and actually they are aware.
The county determines the assessment based on the use of the property. So even if a property gets rezoned, they don't factor that in until, like Dominic said, that so if a residential house is on a property that gets rezoned as commercial, it will always be assessed by the county at their residential rates and
Thanks,
how
Bill.
they calculate.
All right, anything else? Business party agenda, let's blow through this, please. First item on the consent agenda is the approval to council public meeting minutes of June 6th, 2023. Second is the total expenditures for the month. Dana, you have them?
Yep, $1,001,028.89 consists of June payroll of $297,881.97, current bills totaling $213,134.34, sewer bills totaling $490,012.58.
Okay, Mr. Gillespie, there's some certificates of payment.
Yes, Mr. President, we have one on the Concord Road North Sewer and Water Project, a recommendation from our sewer engineer to make payment in the amount of $316,570.91.
Okay, we have no financial releases. We have committee board appointments. Dan Frattarelli to the Park and Rec Board expiring July of 2028, and Ben Lytle to the Planning Commission expiring July of 2027. We also have an acceptance of applications for review, conditional use application for terrain outdoor dining, and a preliminary land development plan for the Orchard Knoll subdivision. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Tonight, we have Frank Catania, who's the solicitor for the Chester Water Authority. Give us an update on where we are with our precious water company and the big bad guys that want to take it over.
Thank you, Mr. President and fellow commissioners. I'm the solicitor for the Chester Water Authority. My name is Francis Catania. I've appeared before you before, and thank you for having me here tonight. On behalf of the old board of directors, our board serves 5-year terms. I wanted to thank the commissioners for the use of this room for the last couple of years. We met here and on Thursdays around 2 o'clock, and we appreciate the host.
Our pleasure.
So, on a positive note, in 2023, in the month of May, Chester Water Authority received 2 awards from the American Water Works Association Pennsylvania chapter. Best Tasting Water Judges Selection, Best Tasting Water, the People's Choice. So, congratulations, you're drinking the best tasting water in Pennsylvania. We also received a 10-year Partnership for Water Quality Award. We have participated in that effort to adhere to state-of-the-art techniques in our water treatment plant out of the Octorara Reservoir, and we're in a 10th year. We're only one of 2 utilities in Pennsylvania that have achieved that goal. That's positive news. The other positive news is on May 18th, 2023, we achieved a savings of $304 million for our ratepayers by not being Aqua customers for the past 6 years. So if you compare Aqua rates that are paid by people that live in Upper Darby like me with your lower water rates, we have saved the 43,000 customers of the Chester Water Authority $304 million.
I'll drink to that.
The savings run every day. Thank you, John. Thank you. What's been happening on the war front? We're at the war. We're at war every single day. Aqua is trying to take us over with help from the executive branch of the Pennsylvania state government and help from the Pennsylvania legislature, both House and Senate. I'm happy to report that your local elected officials, your state senator and your state rep, have been very supportive of us, and they're trying their hardest to keep us from being taken over, but they're being ignored by their colleagues in the legislature, and they're being ignored by the executive branch. So we are working with them to try to remedy that. More specifically, in November of 2022, this past fall, the receiver for the city of Chester put the city of Chester into bankruptcy. Before it put it into bankruptcy, it filed some pleadings or documents or litigation with the Commonwealth Court, basically alleging that the city government in the city of Chester, the mayor and the city council, weren't listening to the receiver's recommendations. So they filed that, and you may have read in the newspaper there was name calling back and forth between the mayor of council, but frankly, the receiver, who was appointed by the DCED, who I heard mentioned earlier tonight, succeeded in his goal of having the mayor and his 2 council members lose the primary election. So they'll be gone come January, and there'll be a new regime in the city of Chester. If you look on one of our websites, chesterwaterfacts.com, you'll be able to read the whole history of that. But there was a desire to have regime change in the city of Chester that was adopted and carried out by the DCED. They were successful in that. What that means, we don't know, because if it's not clear to you by now, it's certainly clear to me that the DCED and the receiver don't really have a plan to help the city of Chester, other than to sell the Chester Water Authority. And because of your help and our ratepayers and other communities that have stood shoulder to shoulder with us, we've been able to convince the receiver that he shouldn't quite do that. In the same week that he filed the litigation with the Commonwealth Court, he put the city of Chester into bankruptcy in federal court. Now, why would he do that? Well, he did that because their pension funds will be out of money this year. They weren't out of money in November, but they'll be out of money this year, probably by the end of the year. The pension funds and the city are getting minimal to no help from the federal government, minimal to no help from the state government, and minimal to no help from the county government. So they're being left alone. If you ask me why that is, it's to make them be forced to try to sell the Chester Water Authority. But the receiver, to his credit, has been negotiating with us to try to come up with an amicable resolution. So technically, we're in mandatory mediation with a bankruptcy court mediator that we're not allowed to talk about. So we may get back to you within the next couple of months with some suggestions on how to try to resolve this. But bankruptcy was filed 2 weeks before we were ready to go to the Supreme Court to argue what we think is the fundamental question. Does the city of Chester have the ability alone to terminate the Chester Water Authority and take it away from all of you? We don't know that answer because once the bankruptcy got filed, bankruptcy court under federal law takes jurisdiction and all the other litigation stops. So all the Delaware County cases stop, all the Commonwealth Court cases stop, and the Supreme Court case stop. So that's all stopped. We'll have more probably by the fall. Can I answer questions?
Any questions?
I understand that there perhaps is proposed legislation that would require approval of the various municipalities that receive water from Chester Water Authority to approve or disapprove any sale. Is that correct? And what is the status of that legislation?
So there have been several very helpful pieces of legislation. Some of them put forth by Senator Kane. Some of them co-sponsored by your state rep. Some of them put forward in the House by Carol Kazim from the city of Chester. Some of them by Chester City Council. They range from a repeal of Act 12 to a requirement for a ratepayer referendum that's positive towards a sale before any sale could happen. That's been promulgated by both Senator Kane and Representative Lawrence from Chester County. So they haven't gotten out of committee yet. My fantasy is to be treated like the teachers union was in the past week, where you had the governor say, "I'm for charter schools," on one day, and then the next day the teachers union said, "No, you're not," and the next day he said, "No, I'm not." I want to have that kind of power, So hopefully we can get the legislature to support what the people want. They don't overwhelmingly, when we do polling, no one wants the water authority sold, but we don't seem to have the juice that the teachers union has to reverse people that. Chester has some real structural problems, some of which are not their fault. They don't have the tax base to support their operation. I'm not trying to exonerate them from issues, but they need help. They need federal, state, and local help. They're not getting it, and that's got to change. Thank you.
Well, any questions from anybody in the public? Yes.
Aquas. Township free. My property. No, we won't hook you services. We're behind me. Up in
Thank you.
So one of the people love to see.
That's absolute nonsense. It's not supported by any of the facts. For example, what Aqua does. What Aqua does, for example, is they go to the PUC and say, we don't want to have to charge communities like you for fire service. Well, somebody's got to pay, but guess who pays? You don't, but the ratepayers pay. Higher rates than we charge.
Okay. I guess I shouldn't ask for questions. But anyway.
That's okay.
Did you hear that?
The technical answer is a entity with eminent domain power, like ourselves, can't exercise eminent domain power against another entity that has that power. So we can't exercise it against you, you can't exercise it against us. Aqua has that kind of power too.
Yeah.
So we can't exercise it against them, and you probably can't either.
Okay.
That's the problem. But that's an intriguing idea that is actually practiced in other states that allow that. But here, if both parties, both sides, the condemnor and the condemnee, have the eminent domain power, it just can't happen legally.
Okay. Thanks, Frank.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Nate, Schoolhouse Lane and Baltimore Pike improvement update?
Sure. So without going into the entire history of how we've gotten here, what I will say is that we are at the finish line with PennDOT on the HOP. The HOP, the Highway Occupancy Permit, includes the deceleration lane that was referenced earlier this evening, and essentially permanently installs the restriction that's been temporarily installed going on about, I think, about 8 months now. We are working with township staff. We need 3 property owner signatures. Once we have those documents, we will submit that to PennDOT, and we anticipate PennDOT will formally issue the permit. At this point, what I think we will do is we will wait until we complete the July meeting ARPA discussions. Following that discussion and kind of the confirmation of the list and the budgeting, we will then proceed with getting this project out to bid, which should lead to fall construction. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you.
I'm not sure that's critical or relevant, but there's 3 adjacent property owners that need to get notified, and that's what we're working on now.
Okay, we have to approve the request for a zoning map amendment by Garner Valley School District in anticipation of their Pennington School project. I think we have a little site plan. Ernie, you want to add anything to this representing the school district? Ernie Angelos?
Good evening. My name is Ernie Angelos. I'm a partner at the law firm of Raphael Pupio. I have the pleasure of representing the Garner Valley School District. What's before you tonight is actually part of a larger land development reverse subdivision plan we'll be working through in the near future. But there are 2 parcels. Well, there is a single parcel and a larger parcel that happens to include what appears to be a residential zone, which is actually part of the larger high school complex. So what we're asking really this evening is for a hearing in the future to present to council to request an actual rezone of 2 parcels that you see highlighted up there, one on the corner of Smith Bridge and Bethel, and the other one is actually, like I said, part of the larger high school plan, both of which appear to me to be remnants of an old zoning code, and we would like to rezone that consistent with what the actual use is of the property.
Okay, so we would need a motion to just authorize the advertisement for the hearing. We're not
Correct.
granting the relief tonight, so there's no confusion. We have a motion to do so. We have a second? Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, Nate, Sharpless Farms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, Sharpless Farms, everybody knows the Sharpless Farm neighborhood on the south side of Spring Valley Road. The HOA approached us last year with some concerns/questions regarding Spring Valley Road in the context of speeding, traffic calming, pedestrians, etc. My coworker Mike Schneider has pulled together a memorandum as well as a sketch that is in front of the council tonight, going through some possible options for improvements or some modifications in this area. I don't know how much detail we want to go into tonight. I think probably a good next step would be to have some outreach to the HOA and have some further discussion with council. But in short, the recommendations would include such things as speed tables, relocating kind of the asphalt walking path away from the road and uphill, as well as some signage and striping modifications. We've been conservative with our cost estimates, and we think Public Works could execute a large part of this project. At this point, just looking for a little bit of direction on kind of where we want to go next with this, and again, maybe talking further with the HOA would be a good next step.
Is one of the recommendations not to simply remove that roundabout and make it a four-way stop?
Correct.
It is or it is not?
It is not.
Why not?
We installed that traffic calming measure to reduce speeding and control traffic.
Wouldn't
what it's doing.
four-way stops also reduce speeding?
It would go back to the original situation, which is what caused this to occur. What we will do as part of this is we will remove the current stop signs, which are frankly incorrect, and we would install yield signs at this intersection.
I mean, I guess it's currently kind of a four-way stop.
It should not.
Because it has stop signs on it.
Stop signs are installed, they should be yield signs, I'll leave it at that.
When this was put in, it was probably one of the first roundabouts out in this neck of the woods. And it was the mentality that I had too, that anytime you saw a roundabout, you thought of a circle. You thought of New Jersey where they had a diner on the circle. And I think that we never gave it the opportunity to function as a roundabout. I also think that in the future, one of the traffic calming strategies along roads is going to be roundabouts. The more I travel, the more I see them. And I think it would be good to take this one, if we can, and make it function the way it was intended to function, so it could serve as a template, perhaps for roundabouts on other streets. We've had concerns on Shavertown Road. We've had concerns on Matson Road and some other roads. Temple Road, perhaps we will have more roundabouts in the future, but it would be good to point to one that actually works. I know we're considering one with funding from PennDOT in conjunction with the school district at Temple, Kirk, and Smithbridge. That red light would go away, and it will probably be most closely relative to the one that's in Aston.
Correct.
By the VOTEC. And I have to admit, when I was first put in, I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I ever saw, but I travel that road quite frequently, and it works. So I think that we asked Nate to put this together in trying to come up with a solution to make this function better. We're going to talk about it a little more. We're not here to make a decision tonight, just let everybody know the plan's out there, and we'll come to a decision on what we want to do at this intersection. Is that pretty much it?
I think that sums it up.
But you are right, the four-way stops were nothing but we had accidents there. I think we had a lot of problems there when it was four-way stops with the Pico trucks and everything like that. So
Is this a comprehensive recommendation at $150,000 that you recommend all of these, not piecemeal?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe Public Works will do part of it, part that they can do. So it may not be the total amount.
The other thing, John, to your point, the 150 is all in. I mean, there's a curve down Spring Valley Road. We might decide we don't need that.
Yeah, look, I'll be blunt. That cost is.
This is the worst case.
Yeah, that cost is we have to go out to bid and get a contractor to do everything. If we break this out to what Public Works can accomplish and what we actually, maybe we pull a couple things off, I think we can certainly reduce that number significantly.
Okay, so I guess the decision here tonight is no decision, more to follow, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Next is resolution number 30 of 2023, which is the car wash conditional use application for the Express Car Wash at 1110 Baltimore Pike. This is at the hotel site on the corner of 202 and Baltimore Pike, but it is on the side that faces 202 only. It's only access from 202. Whereas an application for conditional use was presented, it's for the property located at 202 and 1, the folio numbers, and there was a hearing held because car washes require conditional use approval. And it would be approved subject to the following conditions. Number 1, applicant will apply for and obtain preliminary and final approval of a land development application. Number 2, in the land development process, applicant shall have a professional engineer assess the existing on-site stormwater facility located to the rear of the site and prepare maintenance recommendations to be included with the land development submission. Number 3, the traffic impact study shall be submitted with the land development submission, and PennDOT permitting shall be the responsibility of the applicant. Number 4, applicant shall provide an internal traffic flow design and diagram for review and approval by the township engineer. Number 5, a lighting plan shall be provided addressing all existing and proposed lighting, including building lighting and lighting south of the existing hotel building, ensuring compliance with the Concord Township Code. Number 6, a 5-foot wide sidewalk, AD ramp, and crosswalk shall be provided along the entire Route 202 frontage and connecting to internal site uses as approved by the township engineer. Number 7, a decorative landscape screen shall be provided along Route 202 frontage as well as the existing internal landscape islands adjacent to the island at this site as approved by the township land planner. Number 8, applicant will provide upgraded landscaping along Route 1 Baltimore Pike if and when the previous sports bar, lounge, and/or Dunkin' Donut locations are repurposed to any new use and/or occupancy. Number 9, applicant will present architectural elevation plans to the township, which must be approved by the township prior to the plans being recorded. Number 10, the hours of operation shall be between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. each day, and there shall be no outdoor loudspeakers or music. Number 11, compliance with the provisions of Section 210, 127 D10 of the Concord Township Zoning Code. And number 12, compliance with all terms and conditions contained in the Zoning Hearing Board February 15, 2023 approval, specifically C through G, which have to do with the occupancy and the parking calculations. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Yeah, I wasn't going to read all that. No. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Conditions acceptable to the applicant?
Like a few days for him to review. If there are any questions?
Well, we're approving it with these conditions tonight.
Sure, understand that.
Okay, good. All right, well, good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Resolution 31 is a watershed restoration project grant to Andrian Road Stream Restoration. Whereas the Concord Township of Delaware County hereby requests a watershed restoration protection grant of $300,000 from the Commonwealth Financing Authority, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, be used as the Andrian Road and Stream Restoration Project. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution 31?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 32 is the same grant. We're applying for another $300,000 to be used for the Municipal Complex Stormwater Basin Improvement Project. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Thank you for
Aye.
coming out this evening.